Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, still talking about this controversial 255 million naira armored cars bought for the Ministry of Aviation. Well, joined now from our Abuja studios by Joyce Nkemaklam, who is the Director, Aerodrome and Airspace Department of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority. Morning, and thank you for joining us. Well, your signature did appear in some of those documents making the rounds. How did NCAA, under your watch, while you were you signed for the Director General at the time, purchase these vehicles?
Good morning, Chamberlain. Yeah, actually, you're right to say my signature is on that document, and as of then, I was not actually the Acting Director General, but I signed for the Director General as authorized. Having said that, we need to look at the whole issue holistically. I don't want to isolate the issue of the security vehicle purchase from the other purchases we made in terms of operational vehicles. There was the need for the authority to re-equip, and then all necessary approvals were got. Due process was followed for the vehicles to be purchased, including the security vehicles. The issue of pricing here is a totally different angle to it, and we were not looking at that as being out of tune, because from our understanding and from the pro forma invoice that was given to us and the market survey that was made seemed to suggest that that price was acceptable.
Pardon me, let me jump in here. You say that all necessary procedures were followed. And if we heard you right, I mean, did this go through the Procurement Act?
Well, there are. I'm not a procurement expert per se, but I know that we have a procurement department and the administration directorate that goes through all this. Having said that, there are procedures. You have to first make the request. The request has to pass through all the necessary authorities. For instance, if you look at that amount, it's beyond the authority of the Director General to approve. You have to obtain higher approvals, and all those are due processes. A process of advertising, process of picking up what they call the expression of interest, and all that, and inviting journalists and accredited BPE observers to look at the due processes. And the process of obtaining, don't forget that this is an IGR budget. It's an internally generated budget of the organization. So there are laid down rules and procedures for obtaining these approvals.
Okay, could you put it simply? Did you say, pardon me, I missed that part. Did you say that this fulfilled the Procurement Act? Because there are those who ask that it did not meet the procurement requirement.
Oh, okay, Chamberlain, I've lost you somewhere along the line. If I understand you are talking about the Procurement Act.
Procurement requirement. That's the Procurement Act.
Don't forget we are running a federal government organization here, and there are laid down rules and regulations for procurement. And as we had earlier said, and my Director General came on national TV to explain that due processes were followed. It depends on who is asking and who wants information. The information is there in black and white and documented. There are several stages of procurement processes. Like I said, I'm not too much of an expert in that, but from what we did, from the documentations we do have, we do think that the due process will follow. So,
were these vehicles budgeted for in the NCAA budget?
Yeah, we do make requests for operational vehicles. It isn't as if we just went all out to go buy security vehicles. These are parts of the equipment we require, and what do I call it? The need for it was well defended. You know, before you get an approval, you have to do a request, and that request has to be convincing for a higher authority to approve. And if you look at what we submitted under our IGR, budget, you will see that there are requests for 2 security vehicles in addition to so many other categories of vehicles for certain categories of inspections, monitoring, and ramping oversight.
It's one thing to make requests for vehicles. It's another for your request to be provided for by the agency's budget. Was this provided for by the budget of the NCAA?
Oh yeah, when we say budget, yes, when you say I need vehicles and this is the amount of money we require, yeah, that is under budget. And that's what I'm telling you, that it's not the only security vehicle that was requested under that heading. There were other categories of vehicles that were requested. And as a matter of fact, when issues of security comes up, it's a little bit sensitive. And being in the position we are, we don't tend to talk too much about these things. But whoever is very much interested in that, they know how to go about picking the necessary information.
I think perhaps maybe you can help us more on this, because this is almost the first time we're having you in our studios since this news broke. Tell us more on this talk about security. Has there been any threat whatsoever?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We know in our climb now. We know what is going on. We know that we are not saying Nigeria is under siege. Nobody is giving that impression. But the fact that there are issues on security cannot be overlooked by anybody who knows what is going on. Having said that, can I go on?
Talking about key officers in the ministry, has there been any threat to lives of any key officer, the minister inclusive, in the ministry?
Yes, Suleiman, we do have information we circulate amongst ourselves, and don't forget, these are security information which is not supposed to be under the public domain, be that as it may. Yes, we do get information on security issues regarding top level officers within the establishment. So yes, we do get such internal information.
I was just going to ask quickly, what do you think? You talked about IGR, that the budget that you raised, well, the provisions for these vehicles were within the budgetary or within the IGR of the NCAA. Does the NCAA make money from other sources?
When we say IGR, that's internally generated revenue. Thanks for that question. You see that NCAA does not obtain funds from the federal government in any way. There are statutory charges approved by the federal government under the Act and in our regulations. That is where we obtain our funds, and that under the Act there is a statutory charge of 5% and all that. Those are what we term internally generated revenue. Yes, that is it.
Generated revenue. On the average, on a yearly basis, how much does the NCAA rake in terms of internally generated revenue?
Well, it actually varies. It actually varies. It depends on what income we do get. If you go the NCA is not a money-making organization, as you know. So our IGR is not, generated revenue is not that much. So we try to manage what we have, and it is enough to cover our expenditures.